Believe it or not, but most rights that people fight for on a daily are actually not rights at all. What if I was to tell you that all you have been taught about human rights is backwards? And in fact, understanding what rights truly are is the one and only key to freeing ourselves individually and collectively. Today, by the end of this video, you are going to see through the illusion that has kept humanity enslaved to a false authority. This is Morality Matters, and today we are going to be discussing real human rights, the absolute crux of everything I teach, and as boring as it may appear to some people, if this is understood, you will be empowered beyond imagination. This is the key to true freedom, and it is necessary to understand.
Free your mind.
So before I get into this, feel free to comment what you think human rights are, because I could almost guarantee that I could predict what you're going to put, because most people think that human rights are food, water, shelter, things like that, and they all play a role. But in fact, the truth of the matter is much more simple, elegant, and it doesn't have to be as specific, and understanding the elegant nature of this allows us to be so much more general, and it is the true key to human freedom. This will challenge everything that you think you know. And this is the fundamental understanding of what it means to truly be free and to act as a moral, right person. This isn't about politics. This is about universal, principle-based, foundational truth. Something that's been put by the wayside by most people, almost everyone. And they think they know what the answer is, but actually they have been deceived. So to really understand human rights, we can actually employ an ancient Greek method of understanding and of finding out what this truth is. Because of course we can sit here all day long talking about specific individual things and items and circumstances where rights may apply, when actually, if we use this ancient Greek philosophical method, we can actually discover what rights are very simply. And this method allows us to rationalize a lot of things in our life. It doesn't only have to just be applied to this. This is known as the Apophatic Method, the finding the truth by elimination. In other words, understanding what something is by first understanding what something isn't, and then removing the inconsistencies, removing everything that something is not. You are therefore left and remained with what it is. This is key in this understanding, because like I say, we can go on forever defining individual rights when actually we can broadly generalize this and simply understand what we are not allowed to do, and therefore the rest is free to choose. And so there are infinite possibilities of defining what individual rights are, and they can very quickly get into relativistic terms of when one country perhaps thinks this is a right, this isn't, and then we very quickly can get into people not being provided for and people not having certain resources that they need. Because of course we all need food, water, things like that. That goes without saying, but we don't have to pinpoint those down specifically, because we can put it under a larger umbrella term, and the Apophatic Method allows us to do this. And so just imagine to yourself how long we could be here for trying to list every single thing that we have the right to do. I would guarantee you would be here for probably years, quite honestly, because there are so many things we are allowed to do. And in fact, the truth is, all we have to do is flip this on its head, and then we can simply understand what we're not allowed to do, and the rest, like I say, is up to our free will decision. And so the real big picture of all of this will actually unfold by the end of the video, because it's a progression of understanding the different things that we can and cannot do, but all this is based upon is property. Very simply, you own your own body. I'll get into this at the end of the video more, but the point is, as soon as we are born, we own our body. We can, of course, own actual things, not eternally, but we can own them while we're here, responsible for them, and if we've acquired them rightfully. but guaranteed, 100%, we own our bodies. No one else can own your body. No one else can claim ownership upon it, because that is slavery. If someone claims ownership upon you and the fruits of your labour. And therefore, if you are to claim ownership upon anyone else's body, namely upon their right to remain unharmed, then this is what defines a wrongdoing. And it's very simply, if we're trying to look what we cannot do, this is it. We cannot infringe upon another person's rights. In other words, we cannot cause harm upon them. If I was to go up to someone else and try and inflict harm upon them and try and, punch them in the face without actually being in a self-defense capacity, I am, without consent, obviously, infringing upon their rights. I'm harming them there and then. That is not within my rights, because I inherently, therefore, am saying I own your property. I am allowing myself to infringe upon you. I'm trying to put violence upon you. And there are many transgressions of this, 7 in fact, that we've discussed in a previous episode. Think about it. If I was to go out into the world, there is almost anything that I'm allowed to do. It only comes to a point of being a wrongdoing of something that is not a right when it is infringing upon someone else. And this, like I say, is theft. Any form of wrongdoing is a form of stealing, because as soon as you infringe upon someone else and you commit harm against them without their consent, you are saying, therefore, I own your body. If I'm saying I can just punch someone in the face and I can rightfully do so without self-defense, like I say, it's me saying, I own your body. I am allowing myself to harm you without right reason. Every form of wrongdoing, every right, is a form of that. A right is simply an action that does not harm another being. All the things that we cannot do are simply things that infringe upon someone else and harm them. And this doesn't have to go down into what does harm mean and all this subjectivity. Simply, harm is the infringing upon someone else, their safety, their right to remain unharmed and unthieved from. And so if we're trying to figure out the things that we cannot do, it's actually quite simple. Think about it. Everything that harms another being is a form of theft, is a form of a claim of ownership upon another being, and it's you saying, by doing this action, I'm saying that I own your body and the fruits of your labour, and you have no say in the matter, therefore I'm going to harm you, claim ownership, and take it from you. These are all forms of theft, and it's all boiled down into one term: do not steal. These 7 transgressions that are wrongdoings is murder, theft, assault, rape, trespass, coercion, and deception. These are the 7 things that we cannot do, because all of these things are claiming, I own your body, I own your property, what I say is law. If you do not do those 7 things, I can guarantee you anything else that you could do is good. Obviously, there's certain things that, vices and certain things that you just don't want to make habitual, and things you might not just want to be mean to people. You want to be a nice person, things like that. But as long as you don't do those 7 things, anything is a right. That is why we don't have to go so specific and so down into the nitty-gritty and list forever the things that we have rights to do, because those 7 things, I don't have to get into the whole process of figuring these out, because we haven't got enough time, but simply you will end up finding, especially when you utilise the trivium method to actually scientifically understand all of these things and really rationalise them out and try them out for yourself, there is no other thing other than these 7 that will harm another being, that will actually infringe upon their rights. And therefore, a human right is, again, not this big, huge list of food, water, all this stuff plays a role, of course. A right, a human right, is any action that does not cause harm upon another sentient being. It's as simple as that. We can do anything we like, and this is the key to true freedom. You have been gifted the beautiful ability of free will by the creator of this universe. It's ultimately the greatest gift of all. You can utilize that any way you like, as long as it does not use these any of these 7 transgressions, and ultimately as long as none of what you do says, I own your property, I own your being, and I'm going to infringe upon that. As long as you do not do that, you cannot do wrong. These are the 7 transgressions. Those are the things you cannot do. The rest, free reign. This is key. This is the beautiful, elegant truth of the fact that it's as simple as that. We could spend 5 minutes trying to explain this to someone. It should ideally be common sense for everyone, but also for children. You go to a child and then you say to them, punch someone in the face without the other person's consent. That child, as long as they haven't been indoctrinated already, that child immediately, just based off the logic and just emotions alone, they are going to tell you you can't do that. They haven't infringed upon you first. You can't just go and be violent upon someone without reason. And self-defense does play into this, but that's for a different episode. And in fact, I discussed it in the past with the sacred masculine and sacred feminine dynamics of do no harm upon another person, and these forms of harm are all the forms of theft. Don't do any of those 7, but if someone does engage those upon you, you don't have to sit back all passively and I can't do anything about it and just be the dog laying on the floor getting kicked. You can actually defend yourself, because as soon as someone engages that upon you, you have the right to defend yourself up to whatever force is necessary to stop them from doing that. The self-defense principle might have to be a whole episode in of itself, of course, as always, but hopefully you can just see the elegant simplicity of this. And none of this is what I say. It's simply what you can actually figure out for yourself logically. You can go through the steps and scientifically figure this out, that you do not have the right to do anything that infringes harm upon another person. And this form of harm is not someone is hurt or they feel bad. It's simply you saying, I own your body and I own your property. Because as we'll see at the end of this video, all rights are property rights. So hopefully you can see the point of this already. And I'll move on. Rights themselves, as we now understand, are an action that does not cause harm to another being. And this fact of the matter is unchanging. It exists from the beginning of the universe and it will exist till the end. That's why this is natural law. It's not laws of the jungle. It is the inherent, eternal, unchangeable, foundational law that governs all of human behavior. It is the cause and effect dynamics, and this is true karma, actually. You, of course, want to be virtuous in everything that you do. That can obviously add to it, and that can obviously bring you good results about. But as long, at the very, very least, as long as you do not do any of these 7 transgressions that I've mentioned, you cannot do wrong. These laws, these rights are unchanging. It does not depend on your skin colour. It doesn't depend on where you were born, what religion you are, race, sexuality, nothing. Does not matter. We are all pink on the inside. We all take shit in the morning. Doesn't matter. Human rights are for all. They are equal for us all. It disappoints me, to say the very least, that we still, in the year 2025, that a few decades ago people would think would have flying cars and stuff, and we're still talking to each other about what human rights are, and we're still talking about if there's still people out there that believe that if you're a different skin colour, that you have different rights, or if you're a different religion. I mean, if we can't get over this basic thing that should be nursery school stuff, if we can't even get beyond that, we're still stuck on there, we cannot for a second even expect to have a world of freedom, have justice, abundance in any regard. We are only going to get more of the same. We're only going to get more confusion and more control and more suffering. Because until we learn the elegant truth of the fact of the matter that you have complete free will, and the only things you cannot do are those things that cause harm to another being, until we understand that, we're we can't even see the chessboard before that point. So this is key, and that's why I say it's the crux of the matter of my work. And so this has nothing to do with law, with other than natural law, of course. It doesn't have to be written down in some fancy parliamentary rule book or judged by people in court. That's all junk. That's all man-made, relative people trying to be God, basically. The only God, not the smaller g God that we all actually are, as you'll see. These are all inherent upon our birth, and they do not change no matter on location, sexuality. Any of these factors have no play. It's simply, are you a human? Cool, you have those rights. No one can take them from you, and if they try, that is what the wrongdoing is, and that is not a right. That is it. But instead, we have a confused world full of mental children. The amount of examples over history of some things getting into law, and then some, they're doing U-turns and gay marriage and prohibition, all this junk that it would go back and forth and again and again and again, and people disagree. It's all just division, more and more, constantly. That's all it does. And it makes people think that we have to sit down and decide for ourselves what the laws of the universe and what human rights are. That we have to go, you can do this, but not this, but not this, but not this. It's just another religion. It's a set of dogmatic beliefs, when all that really underlies all of this, and the rest is just redundant. All that it takes is the understanding of you cannot harm another human being, you cannot infringe upon their rights and what they own as their property, most importantly their being and the fruits of their labour. You cannot infringe upon those, and the second that you claim that you have say over that, self-defence can of course be utilised. It's as simple as that. We don't have to have all of these constantly arbitrary nonsense. It's all division. It's all just more symptoms of the control system, unfortunately. And in this day and age, it's omnipresent, as many of the aspects of the control system are, that you have to get licensure for selling lemonade outside the front of your house. You have to get permits to do this and licenses for that, and all this. It's just more man-made junk. Of course, we can do certain things to regulate and make sure things work well. That can be discussed, but it doesn't have to come down to authority. It doesn't have to come down to moral relativism. How can someone have the right to stop you from engaging in your rights? It cannot be done. It's a contradiction. It's not possible. And the world is full of contradictions. It's all cognitive dissonance, believing that we think one way and we have another opposing view and they think that they will work simultaneously. It's not possible. Licenses, permits, it's more man-made junk. It's hubris. People claiming to be God, thinking that they have authority over the creator of the universe, whatever we want to see that as. Natural law reigns supreme, and it's negligible in its common sense. It should be known worldwide, and only when that exists, then we can reach the stars and beyond. But until we understand this natural law, we're going to be chasing our own tail. We're going to be fighting in between each other, and those two things are what keep the system going. Those are the fuel for the matrix. And so this way of thinking that we can just create rights based on time, location and skin and all that junk, at the best, it's slavery. At the very worst, it is claiming authority over the divine creator and creation itself. These laws are discoverable, harmonizable, and when you do that, then you will be in the slipstream of creation. That's when you'll get the full access to the law of attraction, and to the minimal obstacles will appear in your life. That is the key to cause and effect and for karma. But instead, we're stuck in a slave system of fighting between each other and thinking that this is right, but this isn't, and junk. Another catchphrase for the show. This is junk. Get over yourself. We have to realise the truth is simple and elegant, and the control system is omnipresent, only because we allow it to be. And so, like I say, the key to all of this is self-ownership, self-autonomy, consciousness. You and no one else, From the second you were born, you own your body. You own your consciousness completely. No one else can infringe upon that and claim ownership. Even if you try and give it away, it's not you don't have the ability to do that. Whether you like it or not, you can give away your physical property. I can give this mouse away to someone else as a gift, perhaps, but you cannot give your bodily rights away. They are inherent and they are unchangeable, and you cannot give them away. You can only believe that you can. And we all are. As soon as you get taxed on something, as soon as someone creates a morally relativistic junk law, and you agree to it, and when you vote in the democratic system, you are giving those rights away. And it's all an illusion. And it's all designed to keep you in an illusory worldview. The main symptom of this, and one great example, is the prohibition of substances. Once upon a time, alcohol was illegal. Now it's legal again. Heroin was once legal. Now it's illegal. Someone wants to grow a simple plant that actually is less harmful than the stuff that is legal. You want to grow a plant and we say you can't? Into the cage you go. You know, it's stupid. It's claiming ownership upon someone else's body. Because of course, I'm not going to say go out and have rampant drug use and get addicted to things and just, you know, it's all vices, of course, but often at least. But as soon as someone creates a law that says you cannot take this substance in your own body, although you have the free will choice to take this substance and you're not harming another person, obviously if you take a substance and harm someone else, it's a different story because that is a different act. And the idea of what if is the beginning of all slavery. The second that you would infringe harm upon someone else if you're on these substances, that is the wrongdoing, the infringement upon harm, and that should be dealt with. But the intake of substances to your own body consensually, and of course the acquiring of that is a mutual consensual trade if someone was to do a drug deal, that is right. That is a right because it's a consensual trade, and it's one trying to experiment with their own consciousness and trying to take in a substance of their own body. They own their body and they have the right to take whatever they want into their own body. I have the right to drink a glass of cyanide. Is it wise? No. But should it be prohibited? We have the right to do so. And the claim of ownership upon the claim of restricting one's abilities and restricting their rights is the claim of ownership upon their body, and it is a wrongdoing inherently in of itself. And the law book is rampant with examples like this. As soon as you say you cannot do something because I said so, even though you have the right to do so because it harms no other being, as soon as they say that, it's slavery. It's not ball and chain plantation slavery. It is slavery by definition. It's someone saying, I own your body, I say what you do, I have a part of your consciousness that I'm taking from you and prohibiting, otherwise violence or fines or whatever, punishment nonetheless. It's slavery. It's a euphemism. It's all been euphemized just like government. It's slavery nonetheless. And this harsh truth is the key to being able to unlock our freedom and our true abilities. And the key to all of this, as much as people might not want to accept it, is that responsibility is key to all of this. You are responsible for your own being and for your property in general. No one else is responsible for that. And in fact, the fact that you are responsible for something and that you have acquired it rightly, that is the definition of what a right is. You are responsible for your own body, and no matter what you try and say to justify it, you cannot give that away. What you are responsible for, you own. And so taxation, as much as people want to defend it, the roads and the lampposts, taxation is theft. And it's literally the perfect example, other than prohibiting substances, it's the perfect example of slavery, of one of the symptoms of it, because it's literally you going out to work for yourself of your own accord, completely doing all of it yourself, and then Big Daddy comes in and says, hey, give me some of that. I take it from you, and if you say no, men with guns come, they put you in a cage, or they'll fine you, or both. If that's not theft and slavery, I don't know what is. It's someone claiming ownership over your rights, your body, and your rightful fruits of your labour. That is all it is. And once again, it gets euphemized into the greater good and things like that. If someone was to voluntarily give tax, sure. But that's a different story. Taxation is coercion. It is someone saying, you must give me this arbitrary amount of money from not only from your job, from your house, from your car, all of this. They take their cut from every slight little thing. Even when you die and you have enough money, inheritance tax, strip some of it from you because they said so. And if you say no, to the cage you go. And so your consciousness in of itself is your property, not the state's, not society's, not for the communistic greater good, not anyone's. You cannot give that away. You own your body. And when you understand this and you're willing to defend it, you can only then consider yourself a moral being and someone who is empowered with the natural laws of creation, the full force of God's gift. And so, like I said, we can get into property rights because ultimately that's what it's all about. All rights are property rights, and rights are simply an action that does not cause harm to another being, and this harm that is being caused is the attempt or claim of ownership of someone else's property. What is property? It's not subjective. It's not just, I said it's mine, so it's mine. It's simply the rightful possession of something. If you've acquired it rightfully, of your own accord, you haven't had to infringe or harm upon another person to take that. You rightfully possess it. It can be obviously gifts as well. That's part of it. It's a voluntary trade. The rightful possession, you control and use and regulate the usage of that thing, and then therefore you are responsible for it. All of these things, if they are checked off, you own it. Doesn't have to mean that if you own something that it's for forever, because of course when you die you can't be responsible and all these things for it anymore, so you can pass it off. But ownership of property exists inherently, once again, into the natural laws of creation. And most importantly, key to all of this, you own your body, you own your life, your freedom, and the rightfully acquired property. This microphone is my property. I acquired it rightfully. I'm responsible for it. If it was to get damaged, I would be the one responsible for fixing that and doing things with it. It's as simple as that. And your body is the perfect example because you didn't exactly have to go out and get it in the first place. It's not even that open to subjectivity. It's simple. If you do not own your body, who else does? As soon as you're born, you are completely responsible for your body. You are the one who acquired it. Obviously, your parents play a role into it, but they're not. There's different levels of responsibility, obviously, when you're a child, but you, for the whole life, own your body. And this is the key to understanding slavery and understanding rights, of course. And so harm is the theft of someone else's property, especially their body and their safety. Life itself is property. Rights are property. Freedom is property. And all of these need protection through self-defense from theft. Because these forms of theft, not just stealing something, but, do not steal, all of these things that try and steal your property, you have the right and the requirement to protect all of this property from theft if someone was to try and take it from you. It's very simple. And it doesn't exactly mean that if someone was to try and, take your phone from you, that you'd exactly be able to just blow them away, shoot them in the head. There's obviously discernment that can be played in there. It has to be sort of relative force, and that could be a whole discussion in of itself. The point is you do have the right to defend it, and in a time of tyranny and government slavery, we have the right to fight back against people that are trying to claim ownership of things that are not theirs and that are in fact ours. Voluntary exchanges are rights, but forced interactions are not. And these property rights, when we fully understand them wholeheartedly, and everyone does, or at least the vast majority of people do, this is the only way that we can create natural order. Because there is no other order. People have the illusion that we are in a law and order system. It's only orderly because there are people that are trying their very best to enforce all of these man-made laws, and it's very quickly coercive and violent. It doesn't have to be that way. That is not order, and there is nothing natural about it. The real natural order is people understanding their inherent rights, what they can and cannot do. They abide by them to the best of their ability, and if someone else doesn't, you have the right to defend yourself from it. It's as simple as that. And so to hammer all of this home, I will just reiterate, so it's ingrained deeply into what you understand, the 7 things that we cannot do, the only things that are wrongdoings that we do not have the right to do, because everything else is a right. Water, food, etc. People get it mistaken that our human right is water and shelter, therefore it has to be provided by someone, don't you know? Of course, it's nice when we can have systems that work like that, but it very quickly gets into, government trying to provide for you, big mummy, big daddy. We spoke about that in the past. The real things that we cannot do, and everything else is a right because it doesn't harm anyone else. The 7 deadly sins, the real 7 deadly sins, not the lust, gluttony, all that stuff. Those are the 7 deadly vices. But these 7 deadly sins: murder, stealing life. Rape is the stealing the consent or the bodily autonomy of someone else. Assault is the stealing of safety or peace. Theft is the stealing of their property. Trespass is stealing their safe space and their privacy and their ability to remain unharmed in their domain. Coercion, the stealing of someone else's free will. Rampant in government laws, of course, especially ones that we have a right to actually do, substances, for example. Coercion, stealing the free will. And then finally, willfully lying, or better put, deception. You are stealing the truth from someone. You are stealing the ability for someone to be informed and give their informed consent. These 7 things, and it's no accident why it's 7, by the way. 7 is a very important number, as we'll discuss in the occult series in the future. These 7, if deeply, deeply understood and never used upon anyone or anything, that's all we need to know. Because all harm is a form of theft of something that does not belong to you. It all boils down to do not steal. And no society, no law, no judge, no person in a fancy clothes in these lovely parliamentary buildings, no matter what, they cannot take them away from you, and they cannot make a wrong into a right, no matter how much they try and punish for it, because they do. No matter what, they cannot make a wrong into a right, and you cannot delegate authority that you do not possess yourself. This is why in the future, when we discuss about the whole problem of government, you'll come to see that if I don't have the right to infringe upon anyone else, if I don't have the authority over anyone else or their property, then how on earth, just by logic alone, how can we come together societally and create a right, especially for some people, to rule over others? If no one on this planet has the authority to rule over someone else, no matter if 10 trillion people come together, there is still no right to create the ability to have authority over someone else. If 8 billion people have a glass of orange juice and we all come together and say, okay, yeah, we're going to all give a bit of our orange juice into the massive jug, no matter what is done, that orange juice will not magically turn into apple juice. It's simple as that. We cannot give away and delegate rights that we do not have. No matter what, no matter who, no matter social judgments, it's not possible. We cannot delegate that to someone else. You do not possess it yourself, therefore it cannot be aggregated and delegated to someone else. Police, in other words, they cannot. The only thing that they should protect and provide for is the insurance that we don't do these 7 harms. And finally, to hammer that point home, if we really want to get into the spiritual aspects of it, you will come to see, even still scientifically, you can study all of this and test it out for yourself. Try doing it and try abiding by these 7 laws, and don't try and do either. And you'll come to see very quickly the consequences that come about from that. And if you do want to get all spiritual with it, I can guarantee you, if you wholly understand these principles and live by them, creation itself, God itself, spirit, the ultimate creator, grand architect of this place, the consciousness that is all around us and within us, will come to your aid and protect you and provide for you. Guaranteed. I've seen it myself. I know many people that have seen it for themselves, and you can do the exact same because it's a law. It's cause and effect. It's not just random chance. And I can guarantee you, the only protection that you can ever have is natural law, is the understanding of the rights that you have and do not have. Of course, if someone was to try and infringe upon you, because, you know, a big sword isn't just going to come out of the sky and smite the robber down that's trying to take your wallet, the rest of the protection, of course, can be utilised from self-defence. We have the ability to do that. Learn martial arts, for example. That's the only protection there is. Great forces will come to your aid only when you abide by these laws and when you understand them and respect them as the truth, the perfect necessity of what exists. I will have a future short episode on a key document, an occult, perfect document that summarises perfectly what we have the rights to do and not do. It was created by someone that was rather controversial, but you should understand people by their works, by their fruits, not by who they are or they were. But this document that I will put in a future episode will actually very perfectly put it all together in spiritual and occult terms, so that we can have a different perspective on certain things that we're allowed to do and certain things we're not. Because this is all true, this is all elegant, it's beautiful. When we understand we have been gifted with the ability to learn and grow and expand our consciousness on this plane and recognise and fulfil our purpose on this place. All we have to do is understand what we have the right to do and not do. I've mentioned it in the past that the only path to true freedom and order and the avoidance of chaos, the only path to success is internal monarchy, monarchon, one ruler. You are the only person who can rule and be responsible for your body and your being and your property. Internal monarchy, and then external anarchy. Not chaos, not hooded bandana Molotov pranksters or agent provocateurs. None of that. That's what it's been co-opted as being. External systems, or lack of no rulership, of no person, no matter what crown they wear or what fancy robes and rituals they do. No external masters. The only master is within. If we all master and govern ourselves, it's idealistic, I know, but it's true and it's the only answer nonetheless. True internal monarchy, rulership of the self, and rulership of no one else. Only then can we all harmonise and wholeheartedly 100% understand what we can and cannot do, and that is the only way to create order and freedom. It's the only way. Not because I say it is, or because I have faith and belief. It's because you can figure this out yourself. You can do the rational and logical workings to figure this out, and you can test it. You can employ many truth discernment methods, as we've done only one today. You can do all of this, figure out for yourself, and understand it's fact. And it's been almost the largest secret of all secret societies, of all world controllers. This whole episode, the stuff that I've discussed, is the thing that they do not want you to know. Because if it's simple and it's elegant, and you might be thinking, how did I not realise this sooner? It's because it's not complicated. It doesn't have to be some big woo-woo, this and that, and, you know, just have faith. Quite the opposite. If everyone understood this, we would be on zooming down the path of creating freedom and order. But the reason why this isn't put out there is because the people, no matter their different levels, and it's a huge web, as you'll come to see, it's not just one little group of 5 people sitting in a room dictating the world, maybe at the highest levels, but it's a huge interconnected web. All of the people, knowingly or not, the one thing that they fear and that gets rid of all of their power and all of their profit and everything, the one thing that prevents that is our ignorance to this truth. The one thing that keeps the matrix and the control system in perfect working order is the mass ignorance and cowardice and fear of people, but of course mostly the ignorance to this information. If only people understood what they have the right to do and not do, and they understand that there is only one way that we can achieve order and freedom, If everyone understood that, these people would dissolve. Just like Voldemort at the end of Harry Potter. Gets defeated, there is no big, I'm dying. We give the control system its power. Yes, they're controllers, but we give it the power, and this is the ultimate empowering part of all of this. The power is looking right back at you in the mirror. It's as simple as that. It begins with you, and it's the good and the bad news that you, of course, have to change yourself and do something, but it's also the good news because it allows you to fully empower yourself and realise there's no external controller that actually has real power unless you give it so. And only when we do this collectively, and once again I need your help to do this because I can't do it alone, only when we reclaim this power and we remember who we are, only then can we really become free and utilise the gifts that we have been given. And ultimately, in the very end, we can create a paradise on earth where your greatest desires can get achieved. Beyond money, beyond material, but true self-actualized beauty. Things that we couldn't even comprehend of places we could get to societally. But instead, we're going to be going round as the Ouroboros snake eating its tail until we remember this and learn this. And that is the exact reason why I'm here. Because I'm trying to create a renaissance of common sense. It's as simple as that. So finally, just to bring it all together, remember this. Rights, human rights, are discovered, not created. True authority comes from the creator of the universe and from understanding natural law itself. The only true ruler is the one within. Both times. Living by these principles is the only way that we can create freedom and order and true manifestation, quite honestly, and protection and harmony, etc., all those good things. And finally, you have more power than you could ever imagine, and especially more power than you've ever been told. You are not a subject, you're not some little peasant pawn in the game. You, as long as you allow yourself to be and remember who you are a sovereign being. You can do and be anything that you set your mind to, and you are here to do great things. That's why you're hearing this, and that's why you're hopefully so incredible that you've actually listened to this whole video and the rest of my videos. You are here to do great things. All it takes is you doing the work. These truths have existed forever. You just must remember them, remember who you are, like I say. And when enough people understand this and teach this so it becomes common sense, the world transforms. So I hope you can appreciate this message. You're incredible that you've made it this far. I hope that you love this information. It's only going to get more and more deeper and powerful. This is all empowering. This is all beautiful information that you can use to become your greatest version. As always, please share this far and wide as much as you can to everyone, no matter what they may say or think. Share it with them. The seed has been sown. You've done your part. Do your very best to share this. Drop a like so it can help get this out there through the algorithms. Subscribe if you want to see more videos, and check out the previous videos because this is all crucial information that's been deeply hidden and occulted from all of us. Trust the plan of the universe, not of the disgusting world dominators. Understand that you have powerful, beyond imagination, powerful forces in your corner. All it takes is you to remember them. Stand in your power. Like, subscribe, comment, share this video. I'll see you in the next video. Remember, as always, there is only one law. There is only one rule. The key to human rights. Do no harm. No masters, no slaves. This has been Jake Vogels from Morality Matters. Check out the website moralitymatters.co.uk. I'll see you in the next video. I hope you've appreciated this information. I'll see you next time.